Recently, I hosted a competition where participants have to create an automatic moss-based bone meal farm using the least amount of items before building. And the winner figured out that you can build a bone meal farm using 5 items. 5. That is absurd, and it requires many steps. But how did we even get here in the first place? Well, let's take a look at the story from... On day 1, I announced the competition's objective and rules. They are very important, so let's take a closer look at them. The objective of the competition is to make a moss-based bone meal farm that uses the least amount of items to build. So, you just have to bring as few items as possible before you start building the bone meal farm. For example, here is a bone meal farm I built to kickstart the competition. This design doesn't produce much bone meal, but it only requires me to bring 69 items. The rules of the competition are as follows. Your farm needs to produce more bone meal than it consumes. You can only use the items prepared beforehand, but you can use items you obtain from the initial items. For example, if you bring a lava bucket and a water bucket, and a way to mine the stone, you can make a cobblestone generator and use all the cobblestone you want. Rule 3. You must have these game rules turned off: mob spawning and commands. This rule exists because you can just do what a lot of skyblock challenges do and rely on mob spawns and their drops to obtain more resources. Rule 4. No spawner blocks and random game tick set to 0. This rule exists to make it difficult for people to grow trees without bone meal. Rule 5. You can take the desired RNG in any case. This allows you to control RNG, making any case that relies on RNG possible. For example, you can choose the outcome of mob drops, weather patterns, lightning strikes, and more. Now that you understand the rules, let's take a look at the submissions. First official submission is by Bratwurst. Using 30 blocks, he was able to create this bone meal farm, using a boat clock and a daylight sensor to activate the dispensers for the moss and water, already having the starting point. Next, R.E.D.U.C.E came up with this design, only using 25 items. He also heavily utilized the RNG rule, allowing him to get infinite wood by composting apples he gets from the trees he grew with 1 bone meal. And he also makes a cobblestone generator to fill in all the glass in this image. Great submission and a great use of the rules it put in place. Now, after this, R.E.D.U.C.E went on to improve his submission, removing the slime blocks for a 21 item build, then a 17 item build using a skeleton spawn egg, and relying on RNG for 2 bones and a bow. The bow can be crafted into a dispenser, and using the other items, he can create the moss farm. And finally, he brought it down to 14 items, realizing that the piston's crafting recipe was mostly complete due to the wood from the sapling and the cobblestone generator. So, he brought a single redstone block and 3 iron blocks for the hoppers and pistons. Day 2. Now, at this point where everyone shifted to using only these items to actually build the moss farm. 7 pistons, 2 hoppers, and infinite wood and stone. Using all of these materials, we can create a moss farm like this, utilizing boat clocks, or more specifically, armor stand clocks, instead of daylight detectors and redstone. If you could get these items with the fewest items to start with, you'd win the competition. So that's what everyone started doing. Starting with Bratwurst, he came up with this 7 item submission. 7. This combination of items does turn into 7 pistons, 2 hoppers, and infinite wood and stone. And here is how that works. You first trade with the wandering trader for a moss block and 2 buckets of tropical fish. You kill the fish to get bone meal. Spawn an azalea bush using the moss, and use another bone meal to grow it. Get a pickaxe and get infinite cobblestone. Get more wood and stone, and uncraft redstone blocks and iron. Using the uncrafted redstone and iron, craft 7 pistons, 2 hoppers, and a composter. Use the infinite items to create this farm. This is the first breakthrough we had, using wandering traders for many useful trades. After this, I was brainstorming ways to get iron and emeralds from one source. Raids were an option, but you didn't get enough iron from one raid. That is on the hardest difficulty. Then I came up with this 6 item design, or actually 2 6 item designs. The ominous vault and the normal vault can give you iron and emeralds if you are lucky enough. Use those you can trade for moss and water, bone meal, and use the rest of the items to craft pistons and other required items. The normal vault is similar, but you can get one bow from the normal vault. But you don't get enough iron, so you need to replace the dispenser with an iron block. Then, Blade's programming came up with another 6-item design relying on fishing and other really weird mechanics. This one is very creative. First, you buy moss and tropical water bucket, get a bunch of wood and bone meal, get a farmer, use coarse dirt to make more water and dirt, grow wheat and sell, buy iron items from weaponsmiths to smelt down and craft ingots, and wait for lightning to strike villagers for redstone. Now, at this point, there is no way anyone comes up with less items to get the pistons and hoppers and dispensers, right? Well, Blaze programming strikes again with 5-item design. Here are the steps. First, you buy moss, water, and dirt, get more bone meal, sell wheat to farmer. Then you get a shepherd from a spawn egg and luck, buy beds, breed with a weaponsmith, get a bunch of iron like last time, and wait for lightning like last time. So that's it. Blaze programming with its 5-item design won this competition, tying Entity Redstone for the amount of wins in my competitions. If you want to participate in my competitions, join Bradworth's Discord server. We'll be hosting another competition soon. Thanks for watching, and goodbye.